Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Melnick, just the Secretary doing his job, Mr. Mayorkas. Before you answer that, let me just say that General Kelly, former Secretary of Homeland Security, heard him say a couple of times that border security does not end or begin at the border. And today, as you look at the world, it's pretty safe to say, post-COVID, economies around the world are devastated. The only real game in town is the United States. Our economy, world record low unemployment rate, shortage of workers, and even China, I must say, is struggling to get back on their feet economically. We have a worldwide refugee crisis. If you look at this chart behind me from the UN Refugee Agency, it shows the number of displaced people just in the Americas alone. You can see countries across the region struggling. It's not a US problem, it's a regional problem. Mexico's dealing with this problem. Canada's dealing with this problem. Guatemala's feeling the effects, and of course, Europe. Further south, Colombia. If you look at this chart, Colombia is really struggling. And I must say, refugees are braving that trip north. Perilous situation. I want to show you the picture of a little girl struggling to continue north through the Darien Gap. This little girl lost her mother, and another refugee going north is trying to help her survive. If refugees are willing to do this, you can imagine the challenges at home. Now, let me say Title 42. We all talk about Title 42. I have to remind folks here, Title 42, the party in charge in Congress today, House of Representatives, voted to end the COVID-19 pandemic, and by operation of law, they lifted Title 42. Let me repeat, party in charge voted to lift Title 42. And let me say, I agree with them. Title 42 should not be an immigration tool, but a health issue. The administration has taken steps to prepare for Title 42's lifting. I was at the border numerous times before Title 42 was lifted. I would ask those officers in green and blue, are you ready? And they would tell me, we're as ready as can be. And it wasn't just CBP, it was DHS, State Department, and the administration who did a pretty good job in anticipation of the lifting of Title 42. And in fact, if you look at the next chart, these are the numbers reported publicly by Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz. 50% drop in the encounters after 42 was lifted. Unexpected. It's not over, folks. The world is still suffering from major economic challenges. And these numbers may be temporary. But the fact of the matter is, we've got to focus on getting economies around the world back on their feet. And we also have to focus on the other issue, which is immigration reform. Whether you like it or not, America is a massive draw, a big draw for workers from around the world. 50% of our farm workers are undocumented. Every time one of those undocumented goes to a farm, to a ranch, they find a job. We are also part of the problem, meaning we must pass immigration reform. Otherwise, we'll continue to be in the same situation. Mr. Melnick, I asked you earlier, is the Secretary doing their job? We hear about operational control of the border. What does that mean?
Well, there's a colloquial definition of operational control, which I think is, and then there's a legal statutory definition under the Secure Fence Act of 2006. And as Mr. Wolf just noted, it's not anything that any administration has ever reached. And in fact, the way Congress wrote the statute, it is physically impossible for any administration to ever get operational control.
So when we ask, is there operational control at the border? The answer is, there never has been operational control at the border.
Statutorily, no. There are obviously opinions that some people may have as to on their own views from a colloquial sense, but under the statutory definition, no administration has ever had it.
A political conclusion based on the times.
Again, I think it's the reality is that the job of DHS secretary is extraordinarily complicated and difficult, especially today with more people arriving from countries further away. As you noted, with Colombia and other migrants coming, under the Trump administration, 3 out of every 4 migrants arriving came from 4 countries: Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. Today, in fiscal year 2023, less than half came from those countries. And that is a hugely difficult challenge for any presidential administration, regardless of party.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the witnesses being here today. I've said it before, and I'll say it again.